Hi, welcome to Sugar Free. This is the daily reading for Thursday, 25th of April 2019. Oh. Lovely job. One more cut. Okay, here we go. Magician in the reverse. Death in the reverse. The Hermit in the reverse. Okay. There's a feeling of incapacity here, or perhaps sort of potential capacity that hasn't come to fruition yet. What's clouding our vision is things not moving forward, things not transforming, not being able to transcend one paradigm to another. I'll come back to this more. And what's really happening is a lack of, or the absence of solitary contemplation and sort of quiet contemplation. I just want to have a look at this. For the first time, I'm seeing that funny thing hanging off the end of the table there. I wonder what that is. Anybody got any ideas? Looks like some sort of thread. I suddenly wondered whether it was a string of beads, but I don't think it is. Okay, it's like this is waiting. For me, this is all about waiting. This is stuff. The sense of stuff getting sort of backed up behind a blockage and building up, pressure building up. Because when death comes, it's a natural process. However timely or untimely it is a natural process. It's a physical process that every single one of us is going to go through. That's the nature of this change. And when death comes, as we see all the trappings of life, the weapons, the riches, the intellectual and spiritual power, the tools, all of it is swept away, except the artist's palette, leaving us the capacity to create the new out of the old. Wonderful. It takes it all away. Death takes it all away. But here, it's in the reverse. So that taking away, that unwilled, in a sense, it's like we're willing it. We almost want it to happen so that we can shift into the new paradigm that opens up after this change occurs. Here as the veil, here in the reverse, that's not happening. And I'm getting from the magician in the reverse here a sense of frustration. The magician is the fundamental I can card. Card number one. It's the first thought. I can. After the zero card of the Fool. And here we see him with all his paraphernalia, all his equipment, looking rather pleased with himself, like getting ready to sort of manifest it all out of nowhere, put things together with those tools and make stuff happen. Not today. Things as they really are. It's the Hermit in reverse. So we have, I would say, some disordered thinking, some perhaps ill-advised talk, all right, where things that would be better kept to oneself are expressed verbally and shared and sent out into the ether. And I can understand why that might happen with this frustration here of like, oh, why can't things just move along? I want to do this and I want to do that, but the time is out of joint. It just doesn't feel, I say joint and I'm looking at the knee joints on the skeleton there. It just doesn't, it's not the right time. The elements are not in place for me to move something forward. And that might lead to a certain amount of, yes, ill-advised, sorry, the word prattling comes to mind. I'm going to get some clarification on this, rather than prattle on myself. Okay. Interesting. Justice in the upright. Okay. The scales have not settled yet. Whatever's being weighed up there's no balance. There's no balance. Things can't expand until there is balance, or they can't expand well and productively until there is balance. And yeah, oh my God, what I'm getting here is the kind of careening of forces from one side to the other, like a ball in a pinball machine, like bing, 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 bing. That's what I'm getting from this today. I'm going to get another one on this, because clearly there's something that wants to be happened. Yeah, there's something that wants to be manifested, but it's not happening. It's not going forward. It's going ping, 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 ping from one side to the other, like these scales are going to go whoop, 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 whoop. And this ties in for me with the sort of immoderate energy of the Hermit in the reverse. So let's have another look at this. Oh God, do you know what? When I was shuffling, this card fell out twice. Okay, now we had this yesterday in this position, but it was the principal card in this position, not a clarifier. Tower in reverse. So we are still feeling the effects of what went on 2 days ago. It hasn't worked its way through yet. I don't know what else to say from that. I mean, we're trying to pull ourselves together here with the Magician, but as we can see, it's in the reverse. So I want something sort of good to some nice sort of something nice to say about this. Okay, I would say the challenge today is to sit still for long enough for those scales to stop careening from one side to the other like a pendulum. To let it stop, let it come to rest. And it is a challenge because that sword is awfully heavy and it needs to be held upright. There may be a temptation. I mean, in yesterday's reading, we had the idea, the sense of perhaps some shenanigans having slipped under the radar in the chaos of the tower having fallen, because it was in the reverse yesterday as well over this side. There may be a temptation today for, I would say, perhaps the notion of blame to be communicated about this. in order to kind of explain one's own incapacity to manifest whatever it is that takes us through to the next stage. And there might be some sort of, some loose talk around the place from ourselves that focuses on the faults of others. And that would be very, very easy to do, because as we saw yesterday, it would be very tempting rather to do that, because as we saw yesterday, some shady dealings were around. And how interesting, actually, because this, I realise, I just remember now, Magician in reverse was in the veil position. I think the secret hope here is that circumstances will simply kind of wash it all away somehow, and we might be able to sort of move on to the next stage without having to examine the self, because even if we are not ourselves responsible for what happens in the tower when the tower falls, as I say so often, it's not us, it's that bolt of lightning from the blue that did it. However, there is always something to learn. And I mean, the main thing to learn from the tower is, how do we respond when circumstances come crashing in, and literally crashing in, and damage what we have been building? How do we respond? Do we find ways to point the finger around us? Or do we expand into the wisdom of there being sometimes nothing to be done, and unwelcome change simply having to be tolerated with patience? And that's what I'm seeing here in Justice in the Upright. Sitting still. You know, when major shit's gone down, and perhaps even some people have taken advantage of you while your major shit was going down, it's very, very difficult to just sit still, kind of just breathe out really slowly and let it all come to rest. Not an easy thing to do. It's a day for keeping hold of oneself. Let's get one from the swords. Okay, Two of Swords. More swords being held up, immobile, in doubtless increasingly uncomfortable positions. We're just going to have to do this today. I don't see there's any great learning in terms of sort of real examination of who did what and what happened and what part you played and what part everybody else played and what. But it's not a day for that. It's not a day for that. Clearly, with the Hermit in the reverse, it's a day for keeping your peace, keeping quiet, keeping your arms, playing your cards close to your chest, and just understanding that in the aftermath of a disaster, some sort of chaotic, unbidden, unwelcome, undesigned turnout of events, sometimes the best thing to do is just sit tight and let the tide go out again. Okay, King of Wands. Yeah, this is about sitting still with what has already been built, and I would say with what is left after this. Just sit tight. Again, this is what I'm getting today. Sit tight and let those scales come to rest. The King of Wands is very secure on his throne. This is about, the wands are about what is built in the world. And clearly all is not lost. But, you know, there might be a temptation to try to sort of call in those who could be put in the frame as being responsible. I just don't think that's gonna serve us today. It's a day for keeping quiet. Okay, Five of Pentacles. Yeah, there might be some sense today, and my eye is immediately getting drawn back to the Magician in the reverse here. There might be some sense of self-pity in all of this. I mean, what we had yesterday was that order has been restored, but kind of only just after this tower moment, after what went on a couple of days ago, whatever it was for you. The figures walking past the church here in the Five of Pentacles, you know, they'll be aware that there's hot food and comfort inside that church. It's warm in there. And there are nice people. It's like a flipping food bank. But for one reason or another, they are not, by choice, going in for the comfort. And that kind of, you know, I'm not going to take the comfort and the succor that is offered me when one needs it. I mean, clearly they need it, but they're walking past with their heads down. There's a sense of the self telling the self that the self does not deserve to feel better and does not deserve the help and support of others. And that, for me, is linking back to this Hermit in reverse. You know, the Hermit is a very self-contained entity. It's the meditator, the solitary meditator. And here in the reverse, there is this sense of sort of scattering of self-worth. And the self-worth of these two figures is scattered all over that snow. And the warmth is kind of seeping out. There's sort of karmic entropy happening here. You know, you tell yourself you're not worth being comforted if you wish. It won't serve you today. Today, as I've said, is a day for sitting tight and letting the dust settle. Justice, Two of Swords, King of Wands. Okay, another king. King of Cups. Okay, again, a royal figure sitting tight on that throne of stone while the waters of emotion flow this way and that under his feet. It's interesting, there are some cards here that are indicative of the challenge, and some that are indicative of meeting the challenge. And if it's possible today, with whatever you're dealing with and however frustrating and kind of ragged around the edges you may be feeling, the challenge today is to resist the temptation to engage in a kind of externally blame apportioning narrative, either internal or verbalized to others. Keep your peace and understand that sometimes when shit happens, it's not the fault of others and it's not the fault of the self. It's just one of those things. And it too will pass. And the longer you keep going, bing, 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 you're just keeping that energy going. Right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.